Arlington was shrouded in fog, which engulfed the white gravestones in an eerie mist. The frigid air made it difficult for tomb guard Private Ethan Caldwell to breathe as he took his 21 steps, his boots clanging harshly on the stone. The cemetery was peaceful around 2 in the morning, until something happened. A shadowy shape shifted in the fog, and he saw a soldier in a worn uniform, his empty yet blazing eyes fixed on him. Ethan felt a sudden pounding in his chest. Tomb guards don't bat an eye when he tries to yell or otherwise defy regulations. Next, the soldier pointed to the darkness, raised a hand and then disappeared. With his weapon slung over his shoulder and the darkness closing in, Ethan remained still. The instructions never warned him, and no one informed him, that the tomb does more than commemorate the dead. It really beckons them back. Regardless of Ethan's readiness, he was going to hear this soldier's narrative. Over Arlington National Cemetery, the weight of the fall night washed over the white gravestone rose like a shroud of fog. Aside from the steady cadence of the boots hitting the stone, 21 steps, halt, turn, 21 steps again, the atmosphere at the tomb of the unknown soldier was devoid of sound. Under the dark light of the monument's lights, Private Ethan Caldwell, a member of the 3rd Infantry Regiment and a tomb guard, walked with precision. His M14 rifle rested on his shoulder. His face was a mask of discipline. Though he had the distinction of guarding the tomb for 6 months, 24-year-old Ethan was still a newcomer to the old guard. However, on this his first night shift working alone, he had an uneasy feeling. The mist became heavier, churning like an organism. A shiver ran down Ethan's spine as he maintained his gaze ahead and concentrated on his stride rhythm. He caught a glimpse of a soldier in an ancient olive-drab outfit, as if he were looking through a historical book, just beyond the chain-link fence. Still and almost invisible in the fog, the figure stood there. A beat skipped Ethan's heart. Tomb guards don't flinch, so he kept his balance and didn't even look up. But by the time he got to the finish of his stroll and looked back, the ghostly figure was vanished. He reassured himself that it was just the fog, the stupid fog after a long night. Constantly taking 21 steps, pausing to turn, he clenched his fist around his weapon. Once again it occurred the next night. The soldier was still there, but now he was closer, at the plaza's edge, at around 2 o'clock in the morning. More details were picked up by Ethan this time. The fading chevrons of a private, a youthful face, pale as the marble surrounding them, maybe 19 years old. The soldier's gaze was fixed on Ethan's, desperate as if he were in need of some intangible substance that Ethan was unable to identify. A knot formed in Ethan's throat. His training kept him from yelling out and demanding to know who was there. The figure vanished into thin air as soon as he blinked. After the 3rd night, Ethan began to feel unsettled. Before his shift began, he stood in the guard shack and nervously checked his clothing in the little mirror. With her arms folded, his squad commander, Sergeant Maria Torres, rested against the doorframe. With a no-nonsense gaze that could make a recruit sweat, 32-year-old Maria was tough as nails. "You seem as though you caught a glimpse of an ethereal being, Caldwell," she said, her voice severe. Ethan tried to chuckle, but he was too embarrassed. "I could have. Is there anything strange you've seen when you're out at night?" An eyebrow was raised by Maria. Arlington is home to some tales. Whispers, shadows, and outcast troops are topics of conversation among the old guard. Is a part of life. Are you not going to crack? "No, ma'am," Ethan said with urgency. "A little weary, I guess." She took stock of him, then relaxed. "The grave is holy, you little dweeb. It's not only stone that you're protecting. Real individuals with tales that no one knows make up those unknowns. They might be fidgety, or you could just need a little more shut-eye. Do not let your guard down in any situation." Nodding, Ethan found herself haunted by her comments. That chilly night, as he braved the elements, the soldier materialized once again. This time standing just outside the chains. Nervousness gripped Ethan. The apparition suddenly disappeared after raising a hand to indicate a distant row of tombstones. At the finish of his trek, Ethan remained still, gazing into the night. His voice was scarcely heard as he murmured, "What do you want?" It remained with Ethan the next morning. Seated in the barracks, he frantically searched his phone for any information on the tomb. According to the information available online, the tomb included the remains of troops from many wars, including World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Unfortunately, the tales and names of these thousands of buried men have now faded into oblivion. With the same olive-drab uniform and the same haunting expression, Ethan's gaze remained fixed on a photograph of a doughboy serving in World War I. Anxiety knotted in his gut. He reached out to his grandpa, George Caldwell, a veteran of World War II residing in a little village an hour away from Washington, D.C. Through the phone, George's warm but worn voice cracked. "What can I do for you, my son?" George inquired. Ethan held back before revealing everything. The person, the pointing, and the uneasy sensation of being seen. "Am I going crazy or is this really happening, Grandpa?" George was silent for a while. "Shadows in the trenches, guys who weren't there. Those were the sights I witnessed in 1944 while in France. At the outside of camp, my friend said he saw his brother, who had been slain a year before. War is like an echo chamber, Ethan. No one remembering those nameless lads at Arlington can let them rest easily. Perhaps this soldier is pleading with you to pay attention if he is presenting himself to you. Who are you supposed to listen to? Is that so?" Ethan inquired. "To his story," George said. "Determine his identity. Please identify him." With a rushing mind, Ethan ended the call. He entered the square that night with renewed determination. The stars were brighter in the sky, and the fog had lifted. Ethan took his usual 21 steps, but he kept his gaze fixed on the approaching soldier. "You would like me to be informed about something, would you?" he said tenderly. "I am present. Please show me." For an instant, everything changed as the soldier remained still, but his gaze locked with Ethan's. A muddy trench, the crack of artillery, a young guy cradling a letter, and blood drenching his clothing were all flashes that Ethan witnessed. Ethan returned to the square, gasping, and then it vanished. Once again, the soldier gestured toward the grave markers, and then he disappeared. In the time between shifts, Ethan began to dig. Everything he could get his hands on, including the Arlington National Cemetery's archives and historical military papers, he culled. An unidentified soldier from World War I was discovered buried with a piece of paper that read, "Will, Pennsylvania, 19. A child who lost his life in the Meuse-Argonne. A particularly brutal combat, without a last name or unit." A knot formed in Ethan's chest. Asking the vacant room, "Was that you?" in a low voice. He began chatting with the soldier while on duty, and he didn't care if it seemed insane. "Greetings, Will. My name is Ethan. My home is in Ohio. My father served in Iraq, although he seldom brings up the subject. I joined so he would be pleased, but I still question if this is the right choice for me." He hesitated, partially hoping for a response, but there was complete stillness in the night. Speaking itself, nevertheless, seemed appropriate. It was as if he were constructing a bridge to something. As time went on, the dreams became more vivid. Will, the soldier, strode into the square as Ethan stared before the grave, the mist around his boots. Ethan remained steadfast despite his racing heart. Ethan's mind raced with images as Will's lips remained motionless. In one scene, a small Pennsylvania farm came to life, along with a mother sewing a uniform and a young man who wrote a letter by candlelight. "Dear Ma, I'll be home by Christmas, don't worry." Before returning to the trench and experiencing screams, mud, a shell explosion, Will's body falling, and the letter he had held in his hand that had never been sent. Grasping his weapon, Ethan stumbled. "I witnessed it," he murmured into his ear. "I noticed you. What are you expecting me to do?" With a more subdued expression, Will once again directed his finger toward the grave markers. Ethan was aware of his obligations. He phoned Dr. Sarah Lynn, an Arlington historian, the next day. The story of Will and the piece of paper was relayed to her by him. After some hesitation, Sarah consented to provide a hand. The hunt for a lost soldier from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, named William Harper, took days, but eventually she came up with a thin clue. He was reported missing in 1918 with no corpse located and no family informed. His age was 19. "That's him," Ethan said with audible conviction. "For sure, in my opinion." With her gaze fixed on his, Sarah sought answers. "How on earth do you know this, Ethan?" "I simply do," he said. "Would you kindly assist me in paying tribute to him?" That wasn't enough for Ethan. After remembering Will's farm, his mother, and the letter from his visions, he began to jot it all down. He thought Maria would laugh when he told her, but she didn't. What she meant was that you were being kind to him. That's the point of the tomb. Not merely to keep watch but to remember. This just served to strengthen Ethan's determination. He approached his commanding commander with a proposal. A project to pay tribute to the unknowns at Arlington National Cemetery and throughout the cemetery. An idea he had was to name it the Memory Project. They are not forgotten because we read their stories, even the bits and pieces we know. Despite the CO's reservations, Maria was there to support him. Sir, give the child a chance. This is the ideal that the old guard promotes. The first ritual took place around twilight on a cold November night, and was somewhat modest in scale. In the dim light, Ethan stood at the grave while a multitude of veterans, service members, and their families gathered around. Holding a sheet of paper, his voice was firm yet unfiltered, and his hands quivered. He started by saying, Private William Harper was born in 1899 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Being a teacher was his lifelong goal. He assured his mother in letters that he would return home. In October 1918, while fighting for his beloved country, he passed away and the Meuse are gone. Despite the erasure of his name, he will be remembered tonight. While several in the audience wiped away tears, the others fell into a solemn silence. As if the air were lighter, Ethan felt a weight lifted from his shoulders. With a hint of hope that he would discover Will among the tombstones, he cast a quick check around the deserted square. The soldier hadn't shown up in weeks until that night, continued Ethan. At the monthly rituals, more guards would join the Memory Project and recite names and tales. More pieces of history, including letters, dog tags, and other artifacts from past lives, were unearthed by Ethan and Sarah. He then began to record the tales and post them online so that relatives could listen. Students recited names in class and left flowers at graveside memorials as part of the school's participation. A year later, when the fog rolled in again, Ethan stood guard at the tomb one night. His insignia now gleamed on his breast, indicating his promotion to sergeant. A subtle tide of remembering had turned, and the Memory Project had reached other graveyards. On his way down the plaza's 21 stairs, he saw a little girl, perhaps no older than 10 years old, cradling her father's hand. She rose to her feet and laid a single white flower at the tomb's base. "Thank you for remembering them," was the message buried within the petals that Ethan saw. After his shift finished, Ethan went over to the child and her wheelchair-bound father, a veteran with a proud but lined face. "You left the flower, so why?" Softly, Ethan inquired. Gazing upwards, the girl's eyes gleamed. "Daddy was a soldier in Vietnam." Similarly, no one was familiar with his name until you began to relate their tales. "Please accept my sincere gratitude." Anxiety gripped Ethan's throat. The veteran nodded in response to his salute. Ethan glanced back at the grave, the marble gently shimmering as they departed. "Will," he murmured, having no intention of leaving, continually available. With a click of his boots on the stone, he repositioned himself. 21 paces, halt, turn. Ethan remained unfazed as the fog rolled in. He was aware that he had company. Ethan paid a visit to his grandpa the next morning. A photograph of George's former regiment adorned the mantel as he reclined in his recliner. The girl, the flower, and the Memory Project were all recounted by Ethan. With teary eyes, George grinned. "You did a good job, my son," he said. "They can now relax, those lads. And you discovered exactly what you were seeking." There was a nod from Ethan. "Oh, I believe I did, Grandpa." Despite his advanced years, George's hold on his hand was firm as he extended for it. "You are aware that your dad is proud. His lack of vocabulary is the problem." Ethan made a pit stop at his parents' house on the way home. In the garage, his dad Tom was fiddling with a vintage radio. After a moment of hesitation, Ethan entered. "Hey Dad, need to chat? Concerning Iraq, what about you?" Still clutching his wrench, Tom froze. Eventually he put it down. "Okay then, let's have a conversation." Over the course of many hours they shared anecdotes of Tom's time in Fallujah, the people he lost touch with, and the loneliness he brought home with him. The images in the tomb were Will's narrative, and Ethan told it. Their conversation evolved from that of a father and son to that of warriors united in purpose for the first time. Ethan faced a bunch of excited yet frightened new Tomb Guard recruits months later. A brief, calm, and unambiguous speech was all he delivered. The tomb isn't just stone, he assured them. They're making a vow to one another, to their families, and to the unknowns. In the stillness and mist, you'll sense their presence. These two are not specters but brothers. Take their advice. Keep these in mind. This is what distinguishes us as guards. A recruit hollered after him asking, Sergeant Caldwell, have you ever seen anything out there like the stories? Ethan hardly cracked a grin. Private, be vigilant. You could. Ethan took up his duties for the last time that night before a new rotation began. The square was deserted, shrouded in dense fog. With a steady heartbeat he walked the 21 stairs. Overreaching the conclusion of his journey, he stopped and gazed over the multitude of grave markers. A light, comforting touch like a hand on Ethan's shoulder washed over him, yet no soldier or images materialized. Will, I am grateful, he said low. Take it easy, sibling. As he spun around, the sound of his boots reverberated across the darkness. 21 steps, nips, spin. He too stood guard at the grave. An obscure recollection and a mischievous voice brought the past and present together in this tale of a tomb guard and a soldier gone missing on a misty night in Arlington National Cemetery. It serves as a poignant reminder that at the tomb of the unknown soldier, where each stride and stop is a solemn promise, the finest honor to the departed is at times to mention their names and perpetuate their narratives. So, pause for a moment today and remember Ethan, Will, and all the other names that lie silently in the grave. Reminding ourselves that remembering is the highest form of responsibility, sharing their tale is an act of honor in and of itself. The 21 stairs to the tomb are worth standing at and listening to if you happen to be at Arlington National Cemetery. In spite of the haze, you may be able to discern the continuous heartbeat of a country.